This one-page order looks anodyne, right? It is an unmistakable sign from the MAGA majority of the Trump-created court that they are with him, that they are going to use their power to make sure he does not face trial in an election year for attempting to end American democracy. Until today, it could have gone either way. It was genuinely unclear whether they were going to give him what he wanted, whether they were going to put their shoulder to the wheel on Donald Trump's behalf. Everyone has always understood the substance of his legal claim here is meritless. It lost at the district court level. It lost unanimously in the appellate court. 3 judges, one of whom is a Republican appointee. It is bad law under the Supreme Court's own precedent and jurisprudence. The point was never to win on the merits. The point was to make a time-consuming Hail Mary pass to attempt to escape accountability. Trump's bet was that the 6-3 MAGA majority he himself created on that court would bail him out. The voters of this country, you and I, the hundreds of millions of us, might be robbed of the information we need to determine whether the man is guilty of the gravest crime any politician has been accused of since the Civil War. Today, the court signaled they are in cahoots, that the plot is on. It's a go. Yes, they will take up the case when they get to it.
The plot is most definitely on. And the sooner Americans realize that the fix is in with the court, the better off we will be this fall when it's time for us to vote. We can't sit back and say, oh, it's the Supremes. Surely they will make the best decision for the country. No. My name is Suri Crowe, and you are watching the MeidasTouch Network. I'm sure you've heard this phrase because it's flying around a lot lately. Justice delayed is justice denied. Well, this is true. So even if the Supreme Court decides against Trump's ridiculous immunity claim when they finally get around to hearing his case in late April, they've already given him a huge W. In fact, they've given him 2 when we consider that this court basically nullified Section 3 of the 14th Amendment of our Constitution. They basically said, Constitution, who needs it? Not us, unless it comes to more rights for the gun nuts. Then it's only one little part of the Second Amendment. So much for being originalist and textualist. Like, at this point, I've now seen the truth with these people. And I am not a lawyer, but I'm a very careful observer of legal scholars and experts. And over the last several years, as this court has become increasingly more extreme, I've heard many of these esteemed law professionals break down and explain what the court might rule or why based on this precedent or this legal case. But here's what I've learned. This Supreme Court is not, or at least the right wing, the six majority, they are not operating with the same integrity and legal ethics as these constitutional scholars. They have jumped the damn shark. They are dunking on democracy. And that should be obvious just by the fact alone that 3 of the sitting justices lied under oath during confirmation hearings about whether they would let Roe v. Wade stand. Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and Neil Gorsuch, they all said that Roe v. Wade was established law and precedent. And yet, as we now know, they all overturned it. And honestly, we should have seen this decision coming a mile away. This is all part of the big plot and plan of the Heritage Foundation and the right-wing Christo-fascists that people like Harlan Crow are funding. Leonard Leo. In Clarence Thomas, we have a man operating with absolutely no impunity, grifting and taking millions of dollars in trips, homes, RVs, and tuition from billionaire benefactors like Harlan Crow to rule a certain way. And add in that we know that his wife, Ginny Thomas, was actively engaged in trying to illegally overthrow the government. It is laughable at best that he refuses to recuse himself from any of the Trump election decisions. But most of all, it's appalling. A justice who actually gave a flip about the law would have stepped aside, as did Ketanji Brown Jackson when the court heard arguments regarding a case involving her alma mater, which is Harvard. But not Clarence. Oh, no. He and the right-wing Christo-fascists on the bench are there to legislate as unelected politicians in robes. Here's one of my absolutely favorite legal eagles, Elie Mystal. He's fire. He's been calling the shots in this game for years, and he does not sugarcoat the truth.
So I was curious what you think the Supreme Court is actually doing, not what it's saying it's doing, not what might feature elegant prose at the end of the day in the ruling, but what do you think it's actually doing?
They're trying to make Trump win. The whole point of this ruling is for Trump to win. Ari, remember how, let's say, all of 2022, I came on your program and I screamed and I tore my hair out over how Merrick Garland was moving too slowly to hold Trump accountable before the next election? This is why, because you have to understand what the Supreme Court is really about. I know you like to give your viewers context, so have this on for some context about what the Supreme Court is really up to. Trump was kicked off of the Colorado ballot, right? And around December 20th last year, the Supreme Court spooled up that case and heard that hearing within 45 days on February 8th, all right? Trump appealed his immunity, Judge Chutkan's immunity ruling, also in the middle of December. Andrew Weissman just pointed out, Jack Smith asked the Supreme Court to hear the case on December 14th. By the time we get to April 22nd, it will be 130 days since they were asked to hear the appeal. So it's 45 days when a ruling could hurt Trump, but 130 days when the delay can help Trump. That is the essence of this Supreme Court. And every single Democrat who is not on board for expanding the Supreme Court and reducing the power of these Republican theocrats in robes is in some way complicit in today's failure.
Longtime Democratic strategist James Carville says that Republicans and Democrats are literally playing two different games of chess.
The lesson to Democrats is there's nothing legit about Mitch McConnell. There's nothing legit about holding up a Supreme Court nomination. There's nothing legit about saying that President Trump was responsible for January 6th and in voting to acquit him when an impeachment conviction could have taken him out of American politics for the rest of his life. So but my advice to Democrats is you're playing one game, they're playing another game. You're playing like the Supreme Court is really a legit institution and they read the precedent or statutory construction or originalism or textualism. They don't do any such thing. They just whatever it takes to advance theocracy or corporate power.
Bending the law by minority rule, obliterating gun laws, ruling in the Citizens United case, which opened up the floodgates for corporate corruption and billions of dark money influence on politics. They have systematically gutted the Voting Rights Act. Chief Justice John Roberts said that we really don't need voting protections anymore because, racism is a thing of the past. This is a runaway right-wing court. And what is so rich is that once upon a time, it was the Republicans who were flapping their jaws about, we can't have a politicized court. Here's a clip from the brilliant Mehdi Hasan when he had his show on MSNBC. Take a listen.
Since the Reagan years, Republicans have agreed that judges should not behave as legislators. That's wrong.
I felt the courts had sometimes gone too far in interfering with the constitutional prerogatives of other branches of government. The judicial branch interprets the laws, while the power to make and execute those laws is balanced in the two elected branches.
Ronald Reagan made a boogeyman of what he labeled activist judges, Democratic appointees who he said were making, not interpreting, policy on issues like school prayer, abortion, and more. He warned that the judiciary, in particular the Supreme Court, was trying to stamp its own left-wing vision on America by doing what Congress could not or would not. Reagan's vice president, George H.W. Bush, had the same concerns, and he helped push a GOP talking point that we still have to sit through decades later.
What I would do is appoint people to the federal bench that will not legislate from the bench.
The role of a judge is to interpret the law, not to legislate from the bench.
President Bush will also continue nominating federal judges who faithfully interpret the law instead of legislating from the bench.
One of our greatest problems in America today is justices that legislate from the bench, activist judges.
Not legislate from the bench.
Will not legislate from the bench.
Radical judges who will legislate from the bench.
Got that? No legislating from the bench. Now, the Conservative supermajority on today's Supreme Court was appointed by the very presidents who railed against judges trying to make laws. So you would think that this majority would do everything possible to act with restraint, that they would avoid anything resembling a political power grab targeting other branches of government.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. That is a fact, my friends. And we have allowed a stinking rot to grow all the way up to the highest levels of our judicial system. These radical justices know that they are the law, therefore they are above the law. So there's no fear on their end for justice to behave accordingly. They wouldn't even really seriously adopt a code of ethics like it was a big thing. Ugh. So, there's no fear for them to be kicked off the court with lifetime appointments. They just operate with impunity. Again, I'm directing this at the majority six, specifically Alito and Clarence Thomas.
The zeal with which existing rights are being pursued to be removed also seems to cut against anyone's delusion that the courts are going to save us.
Yes, and it begins with the inappropriate and what should, in a normal time, in a normal place, be embarrassing ethical lapses of how we ended up with this particular constellation on the court. The refusal to allow President Obama to seat someone on the court during his last year. The willingness to seat Justice Kavanaugh, despite all of the allegations against him, and to run a truncated process that didn't allow for all of the documented information to come out. The rush to put Amy Coney Barrett on the bench just weeks after the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Once you have swallowed all of that, once you have had the confirmation super spreader event on the White House lawn. And once you've had the swearing in the midst of COVID in the White House, once you have tolerated all of that and actually been complicit and a part of it, then yes, you will feel yourself able to flex your power, as we see the 6-member majority, conservative majority doing. They are flexing their power. They are running the tables. And I think in the rare occasions when the Chief Justice tries to tamp the brakes, as in a case earlier this term when the very supremacy clause was at issue, that border case in Texas. What you see is the bellicose and belligerence of Justice Alito and Justice Thomas, who believe this is their time, that they have waited 30 years, that they have been the underdogs, that they have been vilified, and now they want to flex their power. And there's very little to stop them.
Well, we can stop them. We, the people. It is not some corny saying that I used to ignore when I was in school. It's literally what our nation was founded on. But we can't just sit around and go, oh, what batshit crazy thing did Donald Trump say today? And expect Jack Smith to be our white knight. We, the people, have to fight with all deliberate speed to save our freedoms. We can demand changes, whether it's by adding seats to the Supreme Court, which I firmly believe we should do, because this minority rule is train wrecking rights that I grew up with and so many others had. Every day they're diminishing another right, particularly for women. And that's the only way we're going to enact change, is by jumping in the arena and saying, you know what, we've had it. We can't expect judges on the take to do right by us. Women are already on the losing end. We are not guaranteed equal pay under the law. We have lost bodily autonomy. Soon it will be against the law to get contraception. The Republicans have made it clear, despite what they say, because they lie, that they want to ban IVF. So we got to wake up here. The fix is already on. And, we already see that voting rights are disintegrating too. So I will leave you with this, speaking of voting rights, because President Obama's former Attorney General, Eric Holder, has been a huge advocate. He leads a whole movement to try and preserve voting rights across the country. And here is what Eric Holder recently said. There is no cavalry coming. No miracle solution, no saviors. In the end, we the American people, not any of our institutions, have to save our democracy by voting in defense of that democracy this fall. We are the cavalry. The responsibility is ours. Yeah, that's right. So get on your horse and ride, okay? Please share this message and spread the word, because my fear is that people just feel hopeless. Like, oh, another crazy decision, or Trump keeps, winning. Yes, I know it can feel overwhelming. I get overwhelmed at times, but then I fire up my engines and I get back here and I speak to you guys, and I'm asking you to evangelize the importance of, we say democracy, but really it's our freedoms to plan a family, our rights to be equally paid, to have bodily autonomy. I just think all the time, women, we are so screwed. If there were some kind of crazy ass law against men regarding their bodily autonomy, that would not last for 1 second in this country, particularly for white men. It just wouldn't fly. But women, we're going to strip you of everything. And that's what we need to hold on to and recognize, that they've already shown their cards. They're playing in our faces, people, but we can stop this. Get on your horse and ride, baby. We can do this together, but spread the word. Don't let people quit. That is what the fascists, want us to do, is to wear out. That's how fascism works. They wear you out, but not here, not on my watch, not on the MeidasTouch network. My name is Suri Crowe. Thank you for joining me here today. I hope to see you back here very soon. Peace.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.